Recent privatization of power companies in Nigeria provide good examples of the type of project and infrastructure finance deals currently attracting lenders in sub-Saharan Africa's second largest economy. CNBC Africa's Kesha Gitari sat down with Patrick Mwegbelu, director and head of project and structure finance at FBN Capital, and discussed the evolution of project financing in the Nigerian economy and how the practice differs from other frontier economies. Let's take a look.
I wouldn't say project finance differs from how it's done in Nigeria and other parts of the world. I think the fundamental issues are, first of all, that lenders take a much more increased perspective as far as risks are lending to a project finance deal in Nigeria as opposed to lending to a project finance deal in the UK or America. And the fundamental reason is because when lending to a project finance deal, the lenders want to know, first of all, will the power station get gas supplied at the price that's been agreed? When the gas has been supplied, will the power plant be constructed over the 3 months that we've agreed? And once the power plant has been constructed, will the power then be sold to the customers at that price? Now, in other economies, those different buckets of risk you can much more easier quantify, and you have much more certainty as to how they would materialize. But in certain markets, for example in Nigeria, there are certain incremental risks that surround each of those buckets. So the approach is more or less the same, but the due diligence is actually much more thorough. So the fundamental differences are in terms of trying to make sure we can contain and put more certainty on financing projects in the country.
So following on from what you've just said and talking about risks, what role could governments help to play in managing those risks for potential investors when we look at financing projects?
Okay. There are a number of roles government can take. In a number of jurisdictions, what the government actually does is the government actually gives certain, I wouldn't use the word guarantees, but certain assurances in assisting the project sponsors, i.e. the owners of the project vehicle, to obtain certain consents, permits and approvals to accelerate the process towards them being able to achieve project completion. Another thing which certain governments do is some governments actually step in and they say, look, go ahead with the transaction. I will give you a guarantee, and the guarantee might cover either reduction in gas supply, or the guarantee might cover, for example, reduction in offtake. And another word for offtake is a reduction in the amount of people who decide to buy the power. So the government puts those things on the table, and that actually helps to reduce the lender's concerns. So those are one or two things which the government can actually do.
Now, in Nigeria, what kinds of guarantees have we perhaps seen government putting in place for any of our own projects?
Well, although project financing is still very much at its infancy, we've seen a number of guarantees being given at state level, and they've actually helped substantially to get a number of those projects off the ground. If you could bear with me for sensitivity reasons, I wouldn't want to go into details as to which specific projects those were. But in terms of sector, in the transport sector it's been done, in the gas pipeline sector it's been done, and that went a substantial way in getting lenders committed that to the extent the government was willing to put the guarantee on the table, it means they were also committed towards the transaction.
And finally, just before we round up, this is the first Project and Infrastructure Finance Conference hosted by FBN Capital, and we're all learning a lot, but why the specific focus on project and infrastructure financing?
The reason why we felt this project was important and the project was timely is because of where Nigeria is in terms of where it sits on the development curve. If you look at other emerging economies, they have used project finance as a means for driving economic growth in terms of financing projects and getting them towards completion. And it's for that primary reason that we felt we need to now move project finance to the next level, where we enhance what both sponsors on the government side and on the private sector side understand on the risks and the due diligence issues for getting projects off the ground.